and today we're going to make crunchy cream puffs. I have made regular cream puffs on my channel before, but today is just going to be slightly different. We're still going to make the choux pastry, and we're also going to make a separate dough to place on top of the cream puffs. So after it bakes, it's nice and crunchy, and it also cracks, which gives it a really nice appearance. We're going to be filling it with some whipped cream and some fresh fruit, so let's get started. First off, we're going to make the dough. I'm going to add the softened unsalted butter into a bowl. It is important that your butter is at room temperature or it's going to be very difficult to mix. We're also going to add in the light brown sugar. I switched over to a bigger bowl because it was just getting too hard to mix in the tiny one. I'm just going to keep pressing the butter and sugar down on the sides of the bowl to mix it together. Now we're going to add in the all-purpose flour. Then of course just fold it all in. I'm going to turn my dough onto a lightly floured surface. I'm going to knead the dough a little more just to make sure all of the flour is mixed in. Then I'm going to just shape it into a rectangle so we could divide it into thirds. Add in the matcha powder and the cocoa powder gradually because you don't know how deep the color will be. Again, just knead it in. You can adjust the color however you like, depending on how much powder that you add in. And if you want to add other colors, you could also just use some gel food coloring. And for the cocoa powder as well, just add in a little bit, mix it in, and add more if you need to. And now, to wrap things up, we're going to lay a piece of plastic wrap on the cutting board, place a piece of your dough, and then put another sheet of plastic wrap on top. And we're going to roll this out using a rolling pin. So just roll it out to about 1/4 of an inch thick. Once you roll it out, just wrap it up. And do the same thing to the other 2 pieces of dough. Make sure you roll out all of the dough the same thickness. Once you're done wrapping all 3 pieces of dough, place it into the freezer, and while it's chilling, we're going to make the choux pastry. In a saucepan, I'm going to add in the unsalted butter, and to that we're going to add in the water, the sugar, and salt. And we're just going to wait until the butter is melted and the water starts to boil. You could add all of the flour in at once and stir vigorously, but I like to add it in 2 to 3 stages. Make sure you don't add it in too little stages though, because the butter and flour might separate. Once the dough starts to thicken up, switch over to whether a wooden spoon or a spatula and keep mixing. The dough will become super thick and you won't be able to work with a whisk. Once you've added in all of the flour and you've made sure that there are no lumps in the dough, we're going to place the pot back on the heat and keep mixing until there's a layer of film on the bottom of the pot. We're releasing the extra moisture by doing this step and making sure that the cream puffs come out right. Once there's a layer of film on the bottom of the pot, remove the pot from the heat and transfer the dough into a clean bowl. The dough has now cooled. Make sure you don't add the egg when the dough is still hot because that will cook the eggs and you'll have little bits of eggs inside of your choux pastry. So I'm going to crack in 1 egg. I'm going to mix the egg into the dough. This will take a little bit of time and elbow grease because it seems like the dough is really slimy and it's not going to come together, but just keep mixing. I don't suggest you to use a whisk for this because the dough will become really thick and elastic and you won't be able to get it out of the whisk. You can see this is starting to come together. Alright, the egg has mixed in with the dough, so I'm going to add in the second egg. You can see the second egg has mixed in with the dough as well. And this is starting to become super elastic and super thick. And to see if it is at the right consistency, just dip your finger in it. It's going to squish it between 2 fingers. When you pull it apart, both of them should hold a triangle. It should hold a nice tip. Alright, now I'm just going to load this into a piping bag that I fitted with a nice round tip. We're ready to start piping out the cream puffs. So I have a baking tray lined with some parchment paper. I'm going to stick down the parchment paper with a little bit of the choux pastry because this is quite sticky and you don't want the parchment paper lifting up when you're piping it. Pipe on mounds of the pastry leaving about 1.5 inches between each one because these will puff up quite a lot in the oven and you don't want it to attach to each other. We're now ready to place the dough onto the cream puffs. So this is completely frozen. I have 3 colors today and I made 18 cream puffs. So I'm going to be making 6 of each color. I'm going to use a cookie cutter slightly bigger than the cream puffs that I have piped out, and I'm going to cut out the dough. Now you want to make sure you work quickly here because you want to make sure the dough is still frozen when you're cutting it and placing it onto the cream puffs, or it's going to get soft and you won't be able to work with it. Place the dough onto the cream puff and just press it down slightly. Keep the dough nice and centered. You don't want it to be crooked or tilting to one side. I like to use a rolling pin to flatten the dough just slightly because it's still frozen and you don't want to crack it. Try to cut out the dough all at once, but you could re-roll it if you must. And if the dough gets too soft to work with, you could always put it back in the freezer. Bake these off in the oven preheated at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 16 to 17 minutes until they're well puffed. Make sure you do not open the oven door while these are baking or they will collapse and deflate. The cream puffs are ready, so now we can prepare the whipped cream. I'm going to be using some whipped cream as the filling, but you could also make pastry cream or fill it with whatever you like. Once the cream starts to thicken up, you could add in the sugar. I'm using icing sugar here. And just mix until stiff peaks form. Alright, the cream has formed stiff peaks, so I'm going to load it into a piping bag. I'm going to load my whipped cream into a piping bag that I fitted with a French star tip, but you can use whatever tip you like, or you can even just spoon it into the cream puffs. But you could also use pastry cream or even ice cream. And now to assemble the cream puffs, obviously you could do whatever you like, but I'm also going to be adding some raspberries, blackberries, and fresh mint leaves. So what I'm going to do is take a cream puff and cut it in half. We're going to pipe a ring of the cream. And I like to almost push it out of the cream puff so you can see it. And we're going to place a few berries in there. So I'm going to do a raspberry and a blackberry. And we're just going to close it right up. That's how you make crunchy cream puffs. You can see I've filled these with some whipped cream, fresh fruit, and some mint leaves, and they look very pretty. These will make perfect party treats or just a fancy dinner dessert. They look very nice and obviously taste very delicious. So I really hope you could try these out. And thanks for watching and see you guys next time. Bye!